She arrived at the military training camp wearing worn-out boots and a jacket 2 sizes too big. Recruits snickered, commanders ignored her, and the colonel barely glanced her way. To them, she was nobody, just a quiet woman with no rank, no reputation, no presence. But that changed the moment the colonel tossed a silver coin into the air, challenging the group to hit the impossible. Most recruits missed by a mile. Some didn't dare try. But when she stepped forward, lifted the rifle with calm, steady hands, and fired a single shot, the coin split perfectly in half before it hit the ground. And in that instant, the colonel, along with every stunned recruit, knew their lives were about to change forever. Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Tales and Turns. And tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love hearing from you. The woman hadn't come to the camp to impress anyone. She came because she wanted to learn discipline, rebuild her confidence, and feel strong again after a long year of personal losses. She had no interest in competition or recognition, yet the moment she stepped into the dusty training yard, the stares burned into her like sun on bare skin. Most recruits judged her immediately. Too soft, too quiet, too ordinary. They didn't know that her calmness wasn't weakness, it was survival. On the first morning, the colonel demonstrated the shooting challenge meant to test focus under pressure. He flipped a silver coin high into the air, letting sunlight catch its edges as it rose. Anyone who can hit this, he boomed, earns respect. The recruits cheered, ready to prove themselves. One by one, they lifted their rifles and fired. Mississippi, Mississippi, Mississippi. A few shots weren't even close. The colonel smirked, the challenge was mostly symbolic anyway. No one was expected to succeed. When it was her turn, she stepped forward quietly. A few recruits rolled their eyes, whispering, "She won't even pull the trigger." Another laughed, "Maybe she'll hit a tree." She ignored them all. She had learned long ago that the world always underestimated quiet people. She raised the rifle, exhaled slowly, and felt her heartbeat steady like a metronome. She wasn't aiming at a coin, she was aiming at every moment in her life when she'd been told she wasn't enough. The colonel flipped the coin. It arced upward beautifully, spinning with a flash of silver. Time seemed to slow. Dust floated lazily in the air. The sun warmed her cheek. She squeezed the trigger, not with force, but with certainty. The shot cracked across the yard, sharp, clean, controlled. A split second later, the coin fell to the ground in 2 perfect halves. For a moment, no one breathed. Then the yard erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Even the loudest recruits were suddenly silent, unable to process what their eyes had witnessed. The colonel walked toward her with slow, deliberate steps, his face a mix of shock and something else, respect. He bent down, picked up the 2 halves of the coin, and held them up for everyone to see. The yard fell completely silent again. "Who taught you to shoot like that?" he asked, voice low. She hesitated, her eyes softening. "My father," she said. "Before he passed." It was all she needed to say. The colonel nodded, understanding that some skills come not from training, but from love, grief, and memory. He placed the halves of the coin in her hand and said quietly, "You just set the bar for this entire camp." The recruits, humbled, stepped back to give her space, their earlier arrogance dissolving into admiration. As days passed, she continued her training with consistent humility. She helped recruits who struggled, listened more than she spoke, and never bragged about her skill. Yet her presence changed the camp's atmosphere. People pushed harder. Complained less. The colonel often watched her from a distance, realizing she wasn't just talented, she was a natural leader disguised as an ordinary woman. Her strength came from the kind that doesn't yell, it radiates. One evening, after a grueling endurance drill, a young recruit approached her, eyes filled with frustration. "I can't do this," he muttered. She sat beside him and told him the same thing her father once told her, "If you wait for strength, you'll never start. If you start, strength will follow." Something in her voice, gentle, steady, unlocked something inside him. That night, he ran farther than he ever had before. By the end of the training program, the camp felt entirely transformed. Recruits who once mocked her now sought her guidance. The colonel relied on her instinct almost as much as his own years of experience. But the person most changed by her presence was the colonel himself. He had spent decades in service, hardened by command, But watching her, this soft-spoken woman with an unbreakable spirit, reminded him of the human side of leadership he had slowly forgotten. On graduation day, the colonel called her forward. The recruit straightened, knowing something important was coming. He held up a new coin, bright, polished, untouched. "Every year," he said, "I give one coin to the recruit who made the biggest impact on this camp. Not the strongest. Not the fastest. But the one who changed people." He pressed the coin into her hand and added softly, "You changed me." As she stood there, holding the new coin in one hand and the split coin in the other, she finally allowed herself to smile. Not because she had impressed anyone, but because she had found something far more meaningful: purpose, confidence, and connection. And for the colonel, who watched her walk back to her place among the recruits, that moment changed everything. He realized that sometimes the greatest leaders are the ones who never seek the spotlight. The ones who simply show up, quietly, and transform the world around them. And that simple woman, the one who looked like nobody special, had just changed his life forever.